I'm going to Kansas City. If I could, I could. I'm going to Kansas City.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. My name is Emmanuel Cleaver III.
And I'm Emil Cleaver.
Every Tuesday, we drop a new episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. Check us out most places you get your podcast. So last episode, we talked about socially conscious hip-hop and some of the great rappers in that genre. This week, wanted to talk about sort of the same, talk about hip-hop, but also athletes. So we want to talk about rappers and athletes that became business moguls. They went beyond sports, went beyond music.
Yeah, so now we have today, as you all are probably paying attention, a lot of athletes who are doing big things off of the court, off of the field, as well as rappers. I mean, they're no longer letting someone else take control of their careers, of their business. They're kind of taking it over themselves now. And so that's kind of what we want to talk about today. You want to talk about a little bit of the history?
So yeah, in the early days of rap, just I think in a lot of music, period, that first contract people signed, they didn't really make any money. One clear example of that, if you saw the New Edition story on BET, you saw how they didn't make any money. I mean, they were basically only getting money from touring, and even then it wasn't enough where they could move out the projects. So you have a lot of these rappers in the early days. I mean, you saw them on TV. They may have been wearing gold, but they were really broke.
Yeah, they weren't really making a lot of money in those days. Even the biggest rappers, I mean, there wasn't a lot of, because I think we talked about it a little last week, rappers didn't sell a lot of records.
Right, yeah, it wasn't a lot of people going platinum.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't gold and platinum going on. So a lot of rappers weren't making a lot of money. The same goes for athletes. If you look back in the 70s and 80s, a lot of these athletes had to get jobs in the off season. They just didn't make enough money. It was probably in the late 80s when they really started making major money in sports.
Right. And that still is would be laughed at the athletes today.
Yes.
When when people like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird came along and their contracts were huge. But the athletes today, I mean, they would laugh at that.
Yeah, you have people on the bench that make more than Larry Bird and Magic do.
But hip hop, you're talking about, they didn't sell a lot. But keep in mind, when we were in high school, of course, they didn't play rap on the radio. The only way we would get some of the rap songs is somebody went to New York or somebody went to Chicago or LA and brought a tape, and you would dub that thing over and over. So of course they weren't getting paid for that. Yeah. But that's the only way you could get a song. I mean, we that was before MTV even played rap.
Yeah.
And BET hadn't arrived really in terms of playing rap music, which goes back to what we talked about last week. It took BET a while before they played rap music.
Yeah.
So these rappers weren't making a lot of money. Some, retired broke. And it's a shame because they were pioneers. But over the years, of course, they started selling more when hip hop became the most recognizable genre, art form, music in the world, selling millions and then going double platinum. And I think you see that, you saw it in the NWA era, then you had people like Tupac and Snoop and all of them. And then along came, Jay-Z and then Eminem and just sold all. But what one of the revolutionary things about hip hop and rappers is just the number of business moguls, CEOs that came out of that. It's unbelievable.
That's one of the things that our generation can say that we started, and hopefully it continues, that they're taking control of their own business fortunes. There were people early on in music who did that. Sam Cooke, he was a good businessman.
Controlled his masters.
Yeah, not James Brown. Well, I mean, yeah, because James Brown, I believe, died of tax issues. But there was another artist. I'm trying to think who. Well, Ray Charles.
Yeah, Ray Charles. Yeah, Ray Charles wanted his masters.
Yeah, he owned his masters. So I mean, there were a few artists back in the day who kind of saw the light and kind of tried to take care of their own business, but nothing like today. Nothing like today. I mean, the first thing that started out, once a rapper became popular, then the next thing was to start a T-shirt clothing line. And Run DMC, remember, they kind of started that. Before Run DMC, everyone wore Pumas. Those were the fresh kicks that everybody wore. Run DMC had a song called My Adidas. Russell Simmons, the owner, Run's brother, but he was Run DMC's manager.
Yeah. And he and Rick Rubin started Def Jam.
They invited an Adidas representative to the show and said, hey, you need to give these guys a deal. And the Adidas rep was like, well, why do we need to get him a deal? He said, just hold on. Russell said, just hold on. They did My Adidas, and Run, before the song, Run had everyone take off their shoe and hold up their Adidas. When that Adidas representative saw that, he said, I want to sign you guys to a deal. They were the first ones that got $1 million sneaker deal, not being athletes.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of the beginning of realizing the potential outside of music. So now you have, in the early 90s, you had rappers start their own clothing line. Sean John, Puff Daddy, Jay-Z, Rockaware. So I mean,
those were probably the two. A lot of Fat Farm.
Yeah, there were a lot, but those were the biggest. G Unit, 50 Cent. But those were the biggest that kind of got into Macy's and Dillard's.
Right.
The other ones, they were kind of popular at smaller stores and at concerts.
But I think we're talking about rappers. I know you had people like, of course, Russell Simmons. He wasn't a rapper, but he was a black music mogul.
Kind of like the Berry Gordy of hip hop.
And then, you had others in Houston. You had others.
Jay Prince.
Jay Prince with
Rap a Lot.
Rap a Lot and the Ghetto Boys. And what's his name? Uptown Records.
Andre
Harrell.
Yeah.
You had
started
those.
out as a rapper.
Right. So he was a rapper that became executive. But I think one that deserves a lot of credit is Percy Miller, a.k.a. Master P.
Master P. He was the one, you would have to say he was the one who really set the precedence. So he was an independent rapper who was selling music on his own. And then he got, at that time, which was the biggest distribution deal of all time. It was 100 million, 300 million. I can't even remember.
I don't even know.
So he had all these artists, and he wanted to make sure he owned his masters. He had a clothing line. He got into movies. He got into cereal. He got into rice
and potato chips that you can buy right now.
Chips. Yeah, all those other things you can buy right now. He pretty much got into everything. When they put Uncle Ben out of business because it was so racist, he started a rice, Master P's Rice. So I mean, Master P is an entrepreneur through and through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he got a $10,000 loan or was awarded $10,000 when his grandfather died. He opened up a record store, and from there he just kind of took off.
So yeah, you saw people. I mean, Master P was a rapper who became this mogul, and then of course you had folk that would come along after him. Most notably, Jay-Z. And all that he did, Dr. Dre starting his stuff, and even Ice Cube, making movies and music, and then signing a bunch of folk.
And then he has his big three. Ice Cube has a basketball league. I mean, that's what these entrepreneur hip hop artists are doing. I mean, he started his own basketball league. So Ice Cube started out with NWA. Then he started his own movie production company. He has his own record label. Of course, everybody sells T-shirts, but he has a basketball league.
Big three.
A basketball league. Dr. Dre started out with NWA, has headphones, Beats. So, I mean, and they sold those to Apple for billions of dollars, which made him a billionaire. Jay-Z has a record label, a management company, clothing line. No telling. I mean, what else he has? Nas. He has an investment firm. He invested in what was that? Ring doorbell.
Yeah.
Before it was.
He has a cigar line, I think, too, doesn't he?
So yeah, the rappers, even Kanye West. I mean, has his clothing line, which looks like a paper bag, but people like it. He has his shoes. So I mean, rappers today are becoming entrepreneurs, and if that's one thing that the rest of our culture needs to follow is how they are becoming entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think what happened is they saw other people making all this money. That okay, we're in this rap game, we're making money off this. That's good, but they're seeing these other folk, they're making 10 times more than what we're making, so you ask the question, well, why can't I make that? I mean, they're making it off of me. So why can't I make that? And so they start looking and moving and invested in other areas. I mean, it was real big when Jay-Z back in the day, a few years ago, met with Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
He sat down and had a conversation with him and just soaked up some stuff. So, but I thought, what if the generation before us bought into hip hop? And
like
really,
I was saying last week,
yeah, but then went into investing in and buying. What kind of power?
We'd have a lot more
financial power that we'd have today.
We'd have a lot more black billionaires if that had happened. I mean, a lot more, because just think of what they could have done. That we would even be further along. I mean, the strides that hip hop, and you got to give it up to hip hop, because hip hop did this.
Yeah.
Hip hop is showing young kids how to be entrepreneurs, and even you don't even have to be a rapper. I mean, people who are just engulfed in the hip hop culture. I mean, that's how FUBU was started. Academics and LRG and all these, they saw, okay, I love hip hop. I can't rap. What can I do? Well, let me start a clothing line. Let me start these T-shirts or whatever. I mean, so rap has produced entrepreneurs, and that is something that they brag about in the music,
and should
keep bragging about it, about the entrepreneurship that this hip hop culture has brought to black people.
I think you have to give the pioneers of hip hop mad props, and then that second generation of hip hop where you had folk come along and say I should be making just as much money as anyone else. Yeah, I should be making as much money as Tommy Mottola and all these other big time record execs. But at the same time, you had athletes. Yeah, because athletes,
they started it too.
Didn't okay? I'm making a lot of money, but you look up in the owner's box and say they're making more than all of us combined.
Right.
So why can't I do that? And Magic Johnson, he was big, when he worked out his shoe deal with Converse. But probably the one who took it to a whole nother level
is be like him.
Yeah, Michael Jordan. Because I mean, I was telling my kids that at one point nobody wore
Nikes.
Not until Michael
and
Jordan.
I know the kids out there who hear this say, "What? What are you talking about?" No one wore Nikes. No one wore Nikes.
Yeah, I mean,
it was Converse, Adidas. For basketball, I guess it was mainly Converse
and Adidas.
Yeah,
but I mean, just in terms of shoes that you sport, I mean, you throw Fila's in there. I mean, Nikes weren't.
Yeah, nobody's wearing Nike. Michael Jordan.
And I'm glad he worked out the deal. Because, I mean, they should give him part of the company.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't be anything.
I don't know if does he has part of the company?
I don't know if he has
brand Jordan.
Right, which
Jordan
is an
brand,
offshoot of Nike.
Right.
So, and he deserved it because he put Nike on the map. And then, of course, you had others that came along after.
Of course, he bought the Charlotte.
Yeah.
So he's an NBA owner. Is he the only
I think he's the only majority owner.
Yeah, Magic was an owner. Didn't he? Did he give up his share?
I forgot what percentage he was. But Magic, he opened up restaurants and movie theaters and all of that. But then you had the next generation that learned from him, really the generation after him. Yeah, Shaq says that he's not going to endorse anything unless he gets a piece of the company.
Yeah, and I remember when he was the pizza company that he said, he owns that when they fired the dude for making those racist comments.
Yeah, you're talking about Papa John's.
Papa John's. And he was like, I want to do business. Next thing you know, he was a part owner and said he was going to put them on black campuses so that black kids can work in those places. So, yeah, Shaq is taking it to – he's with this business.
And then Kobe Bryant before he died. He had an investment corporation. And
Steph Curry is the same way.
And then, of course,
Serena
LeBron
Williams.
James. Yeah, Serena Williams, LeBron James took it to
sisters.
A whole new level.
Yeah, LeBron James is the first athlete to be a billionaire while he's still playing.
So,
and it's because they're taking control. People like LeBron and Shaq, if they say you want me to endorse it, okay, I'll endorse it, but I want to be a part owner of it too, which is the smart thing to do. I mean, you're endorsing all this stuff. I mean, you might as well get some ownership in it.
But that's also, I don't understand all these rappers who mention all these products and don't get paid for it. I mean, you mentioning all these expensive clothes that you're wearing, the cars you're driving, you're just giving them free advertisement and you're not getting a dime. Nothing. Chuck D was the first one who brought that to people's attention because people back in the day when they were talking about the 40 ounces they drink. And
now you have rappers who own 40 ounces, who own beer companies, cognacs.
Yeah.
I mean, rappers own all types of liquor companies. That are blowing up nowadays. So.
But yeah, I remember Chuck D. Why are you saying this? They're not paying you. Why are you just giving them? But people still do it today. They name all these companies, give them free advertising. Some of these companies and clothing companies, most people would have never heard of unless these rappers said it. Yep. So they're getting free advertisement while some of these rappers are not getting paid for it. But the smart ones said, no. I mean, if I'm mentioning something, I need to get paid. Or I need to start my own thing, and same thing with these athletes. And so I think it shows the black community just the innovation. I mean, which is nothing new, because if you look back, coming out of slavery with absolutely nothing, and then a few decades after slavery, you have Black Wall Street.
Yeah,
I mean, you think about
Black
that.
Wall Streets in other cities. I mean, it wasn't just in Oklahoma. So I mean, there were Black Wall Streets everywhere. I mean, you could say 18th and Vine was sort of a Black Wall Street.
It was a booming business for black folk. But you just think about the resiliency and how hard that must be. So you think of us today, I mean, we really have no excuse to complain.
No.
Although I think the system has recognized and, there's a lot more pressure. There's a lot more out there, but also you also have a lot of black folk who, I guess, for some reason, don't like to see other black people make it to the top. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that.
No, I mean, we had to tell the truth. Are you scared somebody's going to?
I'm just saying, people like
there are a lot of black people that don't want to see other black people make it to the top. I'm sorry if you all didn't know that, but there are. So, crabs in a barrel is what they call it.
So while, back in after slavery, the Jim Crow era, you had black folk fighting against white oppressors, but now you got, you're fighting against the white system, oppressive system, but you're also fighting against black folk who want to be the only ones there. Yeah. I've seen it a bunch of times, and it's sad. Yeah. I mean, it's a sad situation.
It happens so many times. Samuel Jackson's character in Django was the best example of that. I mean, there are many black people that once they achieve a certain success, certain stature, they want to be the only ones there. They don't want any other black people coming up. I mean, like you've seen it, I've seen it. I've seen it, and I wish I could say some names.
Maybe that's our last episode.
When we're about to get canceled, we're gonna start naming names. But
to say some names.
There are people who, they don't want you to be successful. But
Well, I'm glad to see these athletes, and I think the athletes will continue to move forward. But one thing that I think we need to continue, and I'm telling them what they need to do, but sports teams ownership. I mean, we need more and more of that. So you don't have folk like, oh boy, for the Phoenix Suns and Mercury, which there are a bunch of others.
Yeah,
I mean, there are a bunch
Sterling.
of others.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty in football. I'm guessing in football it's going to be a lot worse for some reason. I think football owners are cussing and saying all types of racist things behind
baseball.
the scenes. Oh yeah,
don't ignore baseball.
Yeah, baseball's number one.
That's going to be a tough one to get ownership. And again, the owners have to vote you in. I mean, that right there is a good old boy system.
Yeah.
That even if I have the money, the owners still have to agree to it.
And let me say something. I want to give props to LeBron James. I know a lot of people hate him for some reason. But LeBron James, his business team are all the friends that he grew up with. He brought them with him. I mean, that's rare. We talking about black people get to a certain point and then they want to hate. He didn't.
Or you just have you make it and just bring your people along and just give them money and then go broke.
Yeah,
which has happened to athletes.
Which is what most athletes do.
They just have a posse.
70% athletes go broke because of this. They just pay somebody. Kevin Hart is also like LeBron James, where his friends, he just brought his friends with him, and then his friends are part of his company. He's not an athlete or a rapper, but I just, since we're talking about people who bring their friends with them, he's one. Instead of just giving them money just to hang out, let them learn a trade and grow this business with you.
So, yeah, I agree. Mad props to LeBron James for all that he's done and putting people on. And then, the documentary, Shut Up and Dribble, I mean, some of the things he's done socially.
Yeah.
Even as big as he is, I'm not going to name the athlete. There are some athletes back in the day that people wish would say something about some of the injustices that were going on.
I think they know who you're talking about.
Well, I mean, yeah, we talked about him earlier in the show. But LeBron James, even at his height, I mean, he could have lost popularity, but he still spoke his truth. I mean, others, Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade and all of those guys, Carmelo Anthony, Steph Curry, goes back to the days where you had people like Jim Brown, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Muhammad Ali, Bill Russell, back in the 60s who, spoke out.
Started the Black Economic Union.
And so glad to see those athletes today speaking out.
Yeah, I mean, and so we had to give props to those people right there that you just
named. Absolutely.
Because they started the Black Economic Union. So they're kind of the forefathers of athletes becoming business moguls as well. I mean, because they, like I said, they kind of put it in the air, so to speak. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that everyone should be happy about. Black people should be happy about, is how this culture, hip hop culture, has created businessmen and businesswomen. Serena Williams, she's another athlete who's taking her business to another level. Rihanna, she's a singer. Rihanna. She's taking her. I mean, I don't even know if she's ever going to make music again.
Beyonce too.
Yeah, Beyonce too, because of their side ventures. I mean, they're the talent. If you're the talent, you should be making all the money in all aspects, not just from your, don't let people make money off your talent. You should be making the most money off your talent than anyone. And I think that's what a lot of these younger people are doing, rappers and singers in our community are doing, and athletes. So this is a good thing. Hopefully this trend continues.
Yeah, so in light of all this, we said, hey, let's talk about the top athlete entertainers, or we'll just say the top celebrity business moguls, CEOs. And again, this is another hard list. Yeah, well, we named a bunch of folks, so we got to choose 5 off all the people we named. So I went first last time. Who you got?
So this is a tough, but and I'm not particularly a fan of this guy, but you had to say Kanye West. I mean, he is a billionaire, and he got it from his goofy looking shoes and his paper
those
bag
shoes, my goodness.
clothing, which I don't understand. But you got to give him his business mogul. I mean, whatever he starts, people jump on. So Kanye West, I got to give it up to him. Number 4, I'm going to give it to Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson, after he retired, he seems like he just, as good as he was in basketball, he's even better in business because he's given all these people jobs. I mean, he owns Starbucks, he owns a lot of different restaurants and
movie theaters.
I mean, he's one of those people who just invest in different things and it keeps growing and growing. So Magic Johnson, he's still around.
Yeah, he is.
He's still around, looking good and making a lot of money. Number 3, let me put on my glasses instead of me squinting. Number 3, I got Dr. Dre. He not only to mention how many legendary artists that he discovered, that he brought out.
We saw that on Super Bowl, the Super Bowl halftime
it's
show.
amazing. But he also, like we said, the Beats headphones, which I think are the most popular headphones in the world, best sounding. Yeah. He and Jimmy Iovine created those and sold it to Apple for billions. He still has his record labels, owns his masters, after Death Row. He doesn't own the Death Row masters. Yeah. But yeah, Dr. Dre, got to give it to him for his business savvy. Number 2 is Jay-Z. Jay-Z started with 2 other partners, started Rockefeller Records. They signed a lot of great rappers, started Rockaware clothing line, has Rock Nation now, a management / record company, and still has a lot of great artists under his belt. He's discovered a lot of great artists. But yeah, Jay-Z, his business savvy is impeccable, and it's something that should be studied for years and years to come.
Yeah, he's a bad dude.
So number 1, I think it should be obvious. Michael Jordan, he billionaire, owns the only majority NBA owner. He may be the only majority black owner in any major sports. But yeah, owns brand Jordan, of course. Just a great businessman and keeping it going. I don't see things slowing down for him. So that's my top 5. We got some honorable mentions. We'll say that after you get yours.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put Percy Miller, Master P, simply because he started from the scratch. He didn't sign a big deal. I mean, he started selling tapes, cassettes out of his trunk. He was brilliant. He would make that bass music, and he would find the people in his neighborhood that had the best car systems and just give them the music for free. Yeah. And they'd ride around bumping the music, so people would start asking, "What are you listening to?" I mean, it was genius. It was genius. So Master P, I got to put him. Number 4, I'll say Magic Johnson, simply because he started even as a player working out a shoe deal, a big shoe deal. And that was back in the day before everybody had just this huge shoe deal. So he started there, but then, of course, when he retired, he just took it to a whole nother level with all of his businesses. Number 3, I'm going to go ahead and say probably Kanye West. Simply because, it's hard to deny.
Yeah, it's hard to deny.
Hard to deny what he's done, whether you like him or not.
It's hard to deny it.
The dude, they say there's a thin line between insanity and genius. And if that's ever evident in someone, it's Kanye. So got to give him his props. Number 2, my 2 and 1 are like you, Jay-Z. What he did in hip hop, not only is he considered one of the best rappers of all time, but I think the reason why so many people look up to him in the hip hop game is because of what he did in addition to just lyrics. He was president of Def Jam at one point, Rockefeller Records, and all the other. I mean, the vodka he owns.
Yeah, I forgot about the liquor. The 4040 restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, all the stuff. I mean, he you got to give him his props for all he's done. Then, of course, number one, Michael Jordan, when he worked out that deal with Nike to get the brand Jordan. I mean, that was genius, and he deserved it. Yeah. And just all the other things that he's done, of course, owning the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, nobody else is doing anything like that. And then even putting out this great documentary that everyone in the world watched. I mean, he puts out this 6-part documentary series.
The Last Dance.
That every human that had television access watched.
So I'm hearing that that company that made it, he's going to be doing more stuff like that.
Hey.
So that's just another business venture for Michael. And LeBron James has his production company.
Absolutely.
I believe Steph Curry has the production company because he's the executive producer of that game show on TV right now. So yeah, these entrepreneurs. So Steph Curry is in my honorable mention.
Yeah, absolutely.
P. Diddy, Puffy, got to throw him in the honorable mention. Nas in the honorable mention. E40, Ice Cube, Serena Williams, Rihanna,
Beyonce.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a bunch. So I mean, yeah, I'm sure some would say some of them deserve to be on the list. And you know, if you made the argument for one of them to replace someone else, I mean, I wouldn't argue against it.
No, they're all worthy.
You could put any of them on there. So let us know if there's some celebrity entrepreneurs. And we're just saying celebrity, not just rap and music. I mean, you mentioned Kevin Hart. But if there are some others that you think we missed that deserve to be mentioned, let us know. Put it in the comment. Every Tuesday, we drop a new episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. Check us out most places you get your podcast. Peace.
I'm of the models, here I am. I come, that's where I'm from, yeah.